Hello, I'm Kiana Wagler, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about amoebic dysentery. So, as a lot of people may know, dysentery is kind of a familiar word. I know I remember hearing it on the wagon train game that we used to play in junior high and on all the old Western shows, and it seemed like kind of an old fashioned disease just a little bit, but this is a more specific kind. It's amoebic dysentery. So I'm going to go on to tell you a little bit about it. So first of all, we got to start out with the disease description. It's also known as amoebiasis, and it's an intestinal illness caused by a protozoan parasite. It primarily affects the colon and can range from mild diarrhea to severe life-threatening dysentery. So it's really kind of just the luck of the draw if it's just a very mild case, or it can be just crazy. And as you can see on this slide, there's kind of a picture of what the little parasite looks like once it enters your intestinal tract, and it doesn't look that dangerous, but it really can do a lot of damage if you're not careful. And going on to the next slide, we obviously have to talk about the causative agent. So the organism is Entamoeba histolytica. It's a pathogenic amoeba, and the transmission is the fecal-oral route. So, if you go to the bathroom and you get a little poop, I guess you could say, on your hand, and then you don't wash your hands and you get it in your mouth, it's not good. It can cause amoebic dysentery. Or commonly through ingestion of contaminated food or water. So if your water supply is bad, or if you just don't wash your fruits and vegetables, that can also be a cause of it. It's just a lot of disgusting ways if you think about it, because nobody wants to eat poop. Obviously you're thinking, yeah, that's really disgusting, and I would never do that, but it can happen a lot easier than what you think. Some of the characteristics of this disease are some severe abdominal pain and cramping. So as you can see, the guy in the picture is really holding his stomach, and he obviously doesn't feel very well. You could have bloody and mucus-filled diarrhea. That's a really big hallmark symptom. So if you have that, then that's you need to go get checked out, because you could have amoebic dysentery. And tenesmus, which is feeling of incomplete defecation. So feeling like you can't go, or you have to go, but you just can't. And then obviously fatigue and weight loss that can fluctuate from person to person. Fever, sometimes it's less common, but it may occur in invasive disease. And then some infected individuals are also asymptomatic, which means that they show no signs or symptoms of it, but they can still spread the parasite, unfortunately. So the pathogenesis of this, trophozoites invade the intestinal mucosa, causing ulcerations and inflammation. And in severe cases, it can spread beyond the intestine to the liver, causing amoebic liver abscesses. And when it spreads to the liver, that's when you're in bad shape. You really need to get this thing all wrapped up, because it could cause death. It's very serious. And I added a little picture of the trophozoite. That's that little weird bug-looking thing. And it kind of reminded me of those little green bugs that you see outside in the summertime when you're mowing or whatever. They're flat. I just thought that was a good way of looking at it. And then of course the other picture there to your right is the cyst that it can cause. And cysts are just not a good thing either. They normally have to be taken out, which is surgical time, and no one wants to deal with that either. Okay, so you're probably wondering how they diagnose it, obviously, and they use stool microscopy for cysts and trophozoites. So that little picture with all the dots and everything, that's kind of what they look for. I know it looks a little bit confusing, but they basically have to go in there and look at all the microbiology behind it to find the little guys because they're so small. And then they used an antigen detection or a PCR test. So that's that bottom picture down there. They basically just see if you have certain antigens, and that can tell them whether or not you test positive for amoebic dysentery. And then in some severe cases, like if extraintestinal involvement is suspected, they might use some imaging studies, so like a x-ray or an MRI or anything like that, which is that picture down there with the big circle and the guy going into it. That's what an MRI looks like. But that's not very often, so it's not that likely that they'll use an imaging system, but they do occasionally. And then treatment, of course. So it's kind of a lot of like just drugs, prescriptions to try to help you get over it. So they give you metronidazole or tinidazole to kill the trophozoites. So that's when it's in the invasive stage. They just want to kill those, get them out of there, and you should be good. And then they might give you paromomycin or iodoquinol to eradicate cysts, so that's the non-invasive stage. And then treatment is ultimately aimed at both symptomatic relief and elimination of the parasite. So like they'll take away the pain, the cramping, the fever, but then they'll also get rid of the parasite at the same time, which is a good thing because that's ultimately the greater goal. That's what you want to do with amoebic dysentery. Nobody wants to get rid of the parasite but still have the symptoms, or get rid of the symptoms and still have the parasite. It's just not really a logical conclusion. And then prevention. So you really do not want amoebic dysentery. As you heard me say before, it is really not a good thing to have. And honestly, it's very easy to prevent. You just need to, number one, improve your sanitation and hygiene. So wash your hands. Just, take a shower every day. Just constantly, if you're unable to wash your hands, use those hand rubs or anything just to kill the germs. And then you can also boil or filter your drinking water. I think a lot of people don't think about the water that they drink may not be as clean as what they would hope it is. And I mean, obviously, I know I'm bad about it too. It's really something that people just don't think about. But to be on the safe side, you probably want to filter or boil your drinking water. And then obviously proper food handling and washing produce. So wash your fruits and vegetables. Just be very careful when you buy things, and possibly try to, when you buy produce, try to make sure that it looks nice. It's not it doesn't look dirty, I guess, which obviously all fruits and vegetables are going to be dirty, but just to be on the safe side, you really need to wash those before you eat them. And then in conclusion, well, these are my sources. Amoebic dysentery, it's a protozoan parasite, and it lives in your intestines. And the signs and symptoms, obviously, cramping, stomach ache. It's just not a very fun thing. Some people might think that it's just a bad stomach bug, but in real life, there's a little parasite in your intestines, and it's causing a lot of issues. So just practice proper hand hygiene, wash your fruits and vegetables, filter your water, and hopefully you won't ever have to deal with this. Thank you for watching my video, and hopefully you learned something out of it.